Okay, so I would love to get started. So welcome to this first year's masterclass, and I'm super honored to be able to be the person that's hosting it today. I think there's lots of things that we're going to be talking about today that are going to hopefully be beneficial to every single one of you. We're going to start by thinking about what needs to happen this year. I know that for a lot of us, this year has already begun, or it began back in November and December of last year. But for those that haven't, right, I want to quickly ask. I don't want you to raise your hands because I don't want you to feel embarrassed. But I want you to think about who's got a pending transaction right now, right? Who has a pending transaction? Who's got two pending transactions? Who's got three or more? And if I were to ask you to raise your hand, if you couldn't raise your hand to even the first, even if you don't have one single transaction, then if I was in your shoes, I'd be very, very nervous and scared, right? Very stressed out. And so I wanted to be able to eliminate that stress, that fear today, because I want to be able to instill within every single one of you the things that you have control over and what you're going to do to be able to make sure that you are on the path to being successful this year. Now, there's two goals that most people have. They have the goal that they would love to achieve. And a lot of times the goal that people would love to achieve is a goal that they've never accomplished before. Okay. Would you guys agree? Most people's goals are a goal that they've never ever achieved in their life before. So in some ways, that goal may feel like something that's just completely unattainable, something that just feels like, like it would be awesome. And sometimes it becomes more of a daydream or a wish than an actual goal because you can't envision you ever achieving that goal because you've never done it before. Think about it. Most of our goals are like that. I want to ask another question before I talk about the second goal. Who's ever achieved a goal that you never thought you'd ever achieve in your life? Raise your hand. Like a goal that you thought there's no way to ever, like maybe it's a goal that you had 5 years ago and then last year you finally hit that number. Who's ever done that before? Where you hit a goal you just never thought you'd ever hit before? Yeah, some of you guys. Isn't it pretty amazing how much we could accomplish? Maybe not in a year, but in maybe 4 or 5 years in our careers, maybe even 10 years in our careers. It's kind of remarkable of how that happens. Okay, now the second goal that most people have, and is a goal that they don't talk about. And this is a goal that is a deal killer in an essence. It's the goal that most people need to just survive, just to be able to make ends meet, barely. And this is a goal that most of you guys operate your lives in. You will operate and sell as many homes as you need to, barely, to make it. Now, isn't that sad if you think about it? No one talks about that goal. And maybe on a subconscious level, you might know, and maybe on a conscious level, you don't even realize that that is a goal that you have. Now, I would like to ask you to think about what that goal is in your mind. When I used to coach with Bill Pipes a long time ago, he used to talk about, what is it? What do you need to make to cover your nut? Right? What is it? What do you need to make to be able to make sure that you cover all of your expenses, both business and personal? How many transactions do you need to do? How much GCI do you need to make to be able to cover that nut, to cover that monthly or just your annual expense? And is that in line with your goal or is that way under your goal? Most of the time it's way under. And if you can't even meet that, then what ends up happening is that you first live off of savings and then credit cards, and then you go get another job because you can't make it in this industry. But I want you to think about that goal of like what you have to make and make sure that you're not operating in that level of what you need to do, right? You're not operating like, I know that I need to sell at least one home a year or one home a month, excuse me, or whatever. If you're in an area where you have to sell 3 homes or 5 homes, whatever that is, like I want that to not even be an option. Because if you're going to live life that way, then might as well go get a job that's not as stressful as real estate is, right? You can probably go get a job making what you have to make at a job that pays you on a salary basis. So you don't have to stress about making that income. Most of us don't get into real estate because we want to have a basic level of life. We get into this industry because you want to have a large life. We want to accomplish more than we'd ever thought possible. We want to be able to have the lifestyle that most people don't have because they're not willing to take the risks that we're willing to take. And if that's you, because that's most certainly me, then you can't operate on just barely making it by or just getting by, right? Whatever lifestyle you've created for yourself, you don't want to just have it be by, or you don't want to live off of credit cards. You don't want to live off of your savings. You want to be able to thrive, and no matter what the market is. And so here we are. Okay. What is it? Today's the 4th of January, 2024. It's crazy. I know that's not true. I have known people that were born in 1924. So it's kind of crazy. I don't know if they're still around, but we have so much opportunity in 2024, don't we? Rates are finally come back down a little bit, right? The pent-up demand from buyers are finally starting to kick in a little bit. And here we are. We got to decide on what we're going to do. You have to decide, you have to make a conscious decision, because if you don't, then what will happen is that you'll operate in the default, like I've talked about. And if you don't want to operate in default, then you need to step up and be conscientious about the actions that you take, the decisions that you make, the days that you decide to work or not to work. And when you are working, decide if you're going to just check a box because you feel like you need to, or you're actually doing things with a desire and purpose to execute on your goals that you have of the things you want to accomplish. The cool thing about setting goals of things you never thought or never thought possible is that there's so many people in our ecosystem that you guys know that have already accomplished what you want to. Is that fair to say? Right? Do you know someone that you personally know that has already done what you want to do? That has already accomplished the goal that would be like a freaking dream come true, a dream come true, true for you. I'm sure you know that person, or know multiple people that are in that bucket. The cool thing about that, and one of the reasons why I loved coaching, is that I was able to go in a room or be in a room in a conference and see all these people and talk to a whole bunch of them and see a whole bunch of people on panels, and they would all talk about the things that they'd already accomplished. And I was like, holy crap, my new favorite word is schmuck. And I would see these schmucks on stage accomplishing these things. I'm like, how? How do they do it? And at the same time, I thought, they're schmucks. Like, I'm so much better than them. And if they could accomplish that, then what's stopping me? Right? And then what would happen is the second thought that I would have immediately after that thought is I'd say, oh, but Nazar, what about this? What about this? And I'd start naming all the reasons why I couldn't have the things that they have. Have you guys ever done that before? It's self-defeating, and it's really, really not serving you in any way. You think that those type of negative thoughts you have in your mind are ways in which your body or your mind is trying to protect you from doing or becoming in a place of danger, but all it's doing is keeping you back from truly accomplishing what you want to accomplish. Now, I bet you if I asked Rob to unmute himself and tell me about all the wonderful reasons why I should do polar plunges or jump off a freaking helicopter into, a den of sharks, and or jump in a volcano, and whatever, like all the crazy things that he does with his buddies. But at the end of the day, on a non-truly physical like fear that we have, we get to decide how we're going to show up every single day. And making money there's no fight or flight that needs to happen, right? It's either you're going to survive or you're going to thrive. And the choice is entirely up to you. No one dictates how you're going to show up. No one dictates what type of experience you're going to have. I promise you guys that in 2023, where a lot of you guys had a difficult year, there's people that crushed it. There was more millionaires and billionaires made in 2023 than there's been in the past. There's more billionaires and millionaires on this planet now than there has ever been before. But guess what there also is? There's also lots of people on this planet that don't have running water. There's also lots of people on this planet that don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And then you've got everything in between. And so you get to decide. The beauty of living in this country that we live in, and why so many people, if they were to open the borders, everyone and their mom would live in the United States, is because we have those freedoms. We have the potential of not letting our ancestors or our posterity dictate our future. You guys hear me? Okay. Now, I want to switch gears just a little bit. I want to talk about the opportunities that are available to us right now. There are still people that feel or think that rates are in the eights. I know that every single real estate video that you see is an agent talking about the rates have been lowered, but people still don't understand. And you still have people that have their homes on the market and predicated upon where you are in the country, either your market's still crazy hot or it's slowed down a little bit or whatever it is, there's opportunity for buyers to realize there's chances for them to get into a home that they otherwise would have to compete even more so in the springtime. Would you guys agree? Right? The sellers that are out there that have had their butts handed to them because they were used to crazy multiple offers, go from that to either no offers or just a couple of offers and not being the greatest offers out there. And or in situations where if you're in marketplaces where it went from multiple offers to no offers and homes sitting on the market for 45, 60, 80, 90 days, you guys, those sellers don't know that the market has changed and shifted. Would you guys agree? And so if that's the case, then it's our responsibility to be able to notify the buyers that are out there and have them take advantage. Imagine if we can go back in January of 2020 or February of 2020. Can you imagine how your actions, how the message that you let people know about would change if you were to say, hey, I know that in a couple months people are going to freak out. There's going to be this massive outbreak of this crazy disease, and there's going to be like, you better buy a property today, because if you don't, in 3 months, that home is going to be worth $50, $100, $200,000 more than it was just a couple months ago. With that same vigor, with that same excitement, that needs to be the message that we share with the people that are in our database or the people that don't know us yet. We got to let them know that, hey, listen, this beautiful month to 2 month opportunity isn't going to come around again. And that if they don't jump on the bandwagon and buy something today, and if you might say, but Nazar, we're in a multiple bidding war situation as it is. Well, great. Well, guess what? If you're competing with 2 or 3 other offers right now, how's it going to be like in the springtime? Is there going to be more competition or less competition? Absolutely. Right? Guess what? Like in certain marketplaces, the inventory, is it still low, or is it like, has it blown up? It's still low fairly, right? Relatively. I know inventory's increased a little bit here and there, but for the most part, it's still pretty dang low. And the buyers, they're still out there, right? There's still 8 billion human beings on this planet. And there's a lot of them that have pent-up demand, want to buy a property, hate renting, want to get in the game, want to start building wealth, and they're just waiting for this opportunity. The opportunity is here. And so if those buyers can get connected with those sellers that feel like the world is still kind of on a standstill, then they can take advantage of the opportunities that are available to them today. And I'm not saying you're going to force someone to make a move, but I think it's our job and our responsibility to be able to deliver value to them. And that is to say, hey, listen, I want to explain to you what's going on. Here's what's happening in the marketplace, and here's the opportunities and advantages that you have as a buyer to buy in this market that we're in today. Okay. Phil Jones, I don't know if you guys see his stuff on social media or not. He talks about learning, knowing exactly what to say when you say it, right? And one of the things he says, he goes, it is so critical, absolutely critical, that every single one of you know how to answer the question, hey, how's the market? If you are asked this question one-on-one, if you're at a party, you were asked that question, or if you're walking down the street, knocking on a door, whatever it is, whatever circumstance you find yourself in that people ask that question to you, how's the market? What is the answer? We were trained and taught for a lot of years to go right into, well, it depends. Are you a buyer, seller, investor? Ha ha ha, right? You guys remember that script? And that's cool, right? Because that's way better than saying, well, let me tell you about the market. It's crazy. I think there's something better. Okay. Rob, what are you saying? Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was responding to it. That's
The most basic response to that question, just to get more info.
That's right. Another way of saying that question is, hey, I'm curious. Why do you ask? Hey, I'm curious. Like, are you looking to get into the market? Are you looking to buy or sell something right now? I'm curious. Tell me a little bit more about why you asked that question. Because at the end of the day, if you don't know, right, it's kind of the same thing, right? You're asking if they're going to transact. You want to know that. And if they are going to transact, what type of a transaction are they looking to do? Are they looking to sell a home, or are they looking to buy a house? Like, it's an important question, but the way in which we ask that question, I think, is really important because it allows us to be able to come from a place of being less salesy and more curious. And my wife gave me a compliment the other day. She said, "You know what, Nazar, one of the things that I love about you is that you are extremely curious. You're a curious individual." And so, like, I think it's important to be able to be that. And if it's not a skill that you have, it's an important skill to cultivate. To be curious as individuals is a great way to be able to be a good friend, is a great way to be able to build, friendships and relationships. But it's also important in business, because if you come from a place of curiosity, then they get and feel you, that you are saying this, hey, I'm telling you this, or I'm asking you this because I want to know, right? Instead of trying to force them to buy a home or force them to sell a house, it might not be right for them to sell a home. It might not be right for them to buy a house, right? And if we come from a place of like, hey, I really want to help you, not because I see you as a commission check or dollar signs, but I really want to truly help you in any way that I possibly can, then they're going to be able to feel that because of how you show up and how you ask those questions. Fair? So I'd like to challenge you guys. I want you to challenge you a couple of different things. Number one is to be very, very conscientious about what your goals are for this year. Like, be very meticulous, because a lot of times if I were to take an inventory of everybody that's in this call today, and I were to ask you, what is your goal? I would tell you that, wow, your goal is too low. I think that you could do more. And the reason I say that is because I believe that a lot of us get stuck in our own heads. We get stuck in limiting beliefs that we can't accomplish the things that we want to. Sometimes it's because we feel like we don't deserve it. Sometimes we feel like it's just because we're just not smart enough, or we're not good enough. And I'm here to tell you that all those limiting beliefs that you have that are self-destructing are not good. So I invite you to change your behavior in which how you think up here about your self-worth.
Hey, Nazar, can I chime in and add to that a little bit?
Please.
You were saying something earlier that Heather and I were actually talking about recently with all these schmucks up on stage, big ballers doing a bunch of great things. And you look at them kind of like, man, there's got to be a reason. There's always more to it than you're just this amazing dude, and success is like magnetically drawn to you, right? There's always a reason. And I do think there's truth in that. But the lie in that is that they are the only ones with that reason, right? Is what did they do and what do I need to do? What people do I not know? What relationships do I not have? What systems, what processes am I not doing now that I need to do so that I can reach that potential? And if you can't even see it in yourself and you're not open-minded to the fact that there's growth that will allow you to become one of those schmucks, then it's never going to happen. So I think it's really important to view that lens of everybody can attain that. It's a matter of what don't I know now that I need to know? What am I not doing now that I need to do to be able to get there?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I also believe that even though everyone can attain it, most won't, because they're not willing to do what they need to do to attain it. I think I've told some of you guys this story from way back when I first got into the industry. I had met with a guy, a buddy of mine that was actually 2, 3 years old or younger than me, and I talked to him about marketing. Do you guys remember that conversation I had with him? This guy had started selling stuff online, and he realized that, if he would spend $10, that he'd make $20. If he spent $20, he'd make 40. If he spent 40, he'd make 80. And that was gross, right? So after he took off what it cost him to attain that money, then he would have a negative or a positive a net sheet, or a positive income. And so he realized that as he continued to do that, the more risks he took, the more reward he got. And he wasn't stupid. This guy was getting to the point, he's probably doing way more than now, but at one level, at some point, this was 15 years ago, he was spending $100,000 a month in advertising on Google pay-per-click. $100,000 in advertising. Can you imagine doing that? Can you imagine spending $100,000 in advertising a month? Okay, so he was doing this, right? He was selling these trinkets, and he was making I think $100,000 profit when it was all said and done every single month because of that. But he said, Nazar, when I would get a new product, and let's say, it was a pen or whatever, he goes, I would spend $100,000 on that pen in one day. He goes, I'd spend the 100, and then I would see if I got 100 back, or 200 back. Then I'd spend 500, and I'd see if I got 1,000 back. And then I would open up the floodgates. A lot of us are not even willing to take that risk. We're not even willing to take that risk on our own selves. And I'm at fault of this as well. Like I can, I know that if I hired X amount more people, I can grow more exponentially. I know that if I, spend more money on this advertising platform or that or this, then I can make the return that I'm looking for. And sometimes it's just a matter of even trying. And a lot of times what ends up happening is that the product is good, our service is good, the way in which we're marketing is good. We just are not doing it long enough, right? We give up too soon. You guys seen that that map of someone like trying to get a diamond in in the cave or whatever, and they're going, they're digging. They don't get the rock, and they sell their that little piece of land that they had, and the next guy comes and just digs one day and like ends up getting this gold mine or diamond mine, whatever. You guys have seen that, I'm sure. Like, how are we showing up? Are we willing to put in the time and then continue putting that time over and over and over again? Now, obviously, the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. However, I think the definition of success is doing the same thing over and over again, even though you don't want to, knowing that it is the right thing to do until you get that success. You guys hear me? You guys see the difference? And so I invite all of you to have the desire to, first of all, believe in yourself, because I think it's more important than anything else you can do. Believe in your ability. And if you feel like you're lacking, then freaking step up to the plate and do what you need to do, right? You look at any, professional athlete, and when we watch them, we see them when they've put in all that time and energy. When we see that person finally on stage, we don't see all the back end crap that they had to go through. We don't see all the pain that they had to experience. We don't see all of the struggles and the negative thoughts that they had to push through to get to that level, right? We don't see that. And so I invite you guys to be able to be willing to be vulnerable enough to be honest and authentic with yourself, to push through the pain, to push through the challenging times. And when you're like, I just don't want to get up today. I don't want to do this today. I just got beat yesterday. I had 2 cancellations, and all the stuff that happens to us as realtors that most people don't see, because when they see real estate agents, they think of us driving, $100,000 cars and, with our little Gucci bags. Like, all they see is the glamour that comes from it. They don't see the hard work and the crap we have to go through, the challenges and the stress and all these things that we have to endure. But I invite you guys to know that when you do that, when you push through that pain, then on the other side of that, that's where the success comes in. But you have to believe in it for yourself. You have to want it yourself. You guys, I want you to raise your hand this time if you believe this is to be true. Do you believe that this is a great time and opportunity to get into real estate as a human being? Raise your hand. Okay, I love that some of you guys didn't raise your hand, which is fine, because that means that you're being honest and you don't believe that it's a good time to buy. But I want to challenge you to say this. In 1990, when the market crashed, right? 1989, the market was just on fire. Like, it was just crazy. I remember my parents were looking at buying property back then. They never did. But in 1990, the market crashed. And it went from 1990 to almost 2000 for it to finally correct itself. Just 10 years. But guess what, you guys? Those people that bought in 1990 at the time, that would have been like, oh my gosh, it was the worst mistake ever. But if I could put you back in 1990, would you buy property? Or would you not buy property? Like, if you could go back in time in 1990 and buy as much property as you possibly can, and then come back to now, would you
I
do
would
it?
have bought all day. Oh yeah. Could you imagine holding something from then?
But
Man.
Brandon, in 1991, the value of the home that you bought would have been almost half of what it was. Would you still have done it?
Well, my goals are to hold it long term and build wealth. So I mean, I think it depends on why you're buying, what your needs are. So there's still people that need to buy then too.
Yeah. And the answer is hell yes, right? If I took any of you guys and put you back in 1990 just for a hot minute, for 30 days, you would have done anything you possibly could to get as much money as you possibly can and buy as much property as you possibly can, ideally right on the beach. And then you would have come down, you would have been super excited about that investment that you made. So today, in 2024, whatever you buy today, in 30 years from now, is it going to be worth more or less than what you bought it for today? In
Better
20
be
years, is it
putting
going
our
to be?
money on this.
Yeah. And it's hard to believe, right? It's hard to believe that if you say, hey, my average price point in my neighborhood is 500, 600, 800 million, whatever it is, or 2 million, that it could be worth more than that. It's hard to fathom. But guess what? Inflation takes place, things happen, right? And so it's going to go up, inevitably will. And so help people make that investment, help them change the trajectory of their lives. I mean, I think I'd seen this article or watched some reel or whatever, talked about like the person that has never bought a property in their life, has always been a renter, versus the person that took that initiative and made that first investment, bought a property, changes the trajectory of their financial future for themselves and their posterity just by making that one sacrifice. And then the person that makes a sacrifice and buys an investment or 2 or 3 or 5, and then carries that forward, think about how they change their posterity and their future, not only for themselves, but again, for their kids and or whoever else that would inherit their properties. You guys, we are in the business of creating wealth. We're in the business of creating generational wealth. It is our responsibility to educate ourselves, to then be a good person that people can trust and rely on, because there's so many bad agents out there. There's agents that do not spend the time and energy to educate themselves on the basics of real estate, let alone those that take the initiative to learn probate, learn, the ways in which you can truly invest in 1031, knowing that inside and out, like all of the nuances that go into how to create that wealth. There's not a lot of them. And if you're saying, well, gosh, Nazar, I don't know. Well, guess what? No one's holding you back. In fact, the only person that's holding you back is the person that's sitting in the seat that you're sitting in right now. And so I challenge you, I invite you to level up your skill set. I invite you to change your mindset. This is a beautiful brand new year. Lots of optimism, right? It's there. Even though it's going to be a whole bunch of craziness coming up with the election that's going to happen. And don't get me started, because I hate politics. But I do know, even though with the politics that is there, like our goal and our desire to help people make financial investments or buy property, sell property, whatever it is, like it's a huge responsibility we have. So don't take it lightly, educate yourself, and then go out there and let people know that you exist. Stop being a secret agent, because secret agents don't make any money. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being on here this morning or this afternoon. I appreciate every single one of you. I believe in you. I really do. Every single one of you. If you can hear my voice, I believe in you. You just got to believe in you. You got to believe in yourself as well. And I invite you to do so. Do whatever it needs to happen. No matter what's going on in your world, you still need to be able to do what you need to do in this life, in business specifically. And so I challenge you, like if you haven't already, then step up. If you don't have an escrow or a home under contract, then you're already behind the 8 ball, right? So get on it. Who are you going to call today? And what I was going to tell you, and I'll wrap this up real quick since I have a minute left, is that get the goal that you have, divided by how many contacts to sale that you need to make, know exactly how many contacts you need to make every single day, and be relentless and do not stop working until you meet that goal. Do not let anything, including yourself, stop you from hitting that goal every single day. And if you do that, it's that simple. Forget everything else. If you talk to enough people and ask them if they're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, that you will be successful when you hit all your goals. I promise you that. Like, there's not a better guarantee out there. Just make your contacts, talk to people. And if you do, you'll be successful. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being on here. I invite you to invite your friends to come on here. Again, this is open to anybody that wants to be a better sales agent in the real estate industry. And we hope we have a goal to be able to provide massive amounts of value to you guys every single Thursday. And so that we can leave here educated, we can leave here more motivated to be able to go out there and just crush in the space. So thank you so much for being here. You guys, talk to you guys next week. Bye.